Loin, served with a Cumberland sauce of red fruit.
Loin. What kind?
Pork.
Wonderful. I don't get many opportunities to eat home-cooked meals. My wife and I both work. And as hard as I tried not to, I did wind up marrying my mother.
Your mother didn't cook?
She did. She did. I only wish she didn't.
Well, next time, bring your wife. I'd love to have you both for dinner.
We understand Hannibal Lecter as a consumer. He has a great appetite, and he has a very particular appetite. So he enjoys a very specific type of food.
People eating other people has been scaring people since the beginning of days, right? We got gruesome stories of people doing it out of need, out of ritual, and then we also have people doing it for fun.
Obviously, through the different machinations of the films, it was very apparent that Hannibal was a gourmand. And that comes a lot from Thomas Harris's character, of his own personality as well. He loves food. And obviously what Hannibal Lecter is doing with the different parts, he's eating them, but in a very refined manner.
It's something we can't understand. We can't comprehend it. And the things we can't understand tends to trigger us and make us very curious. And I guess that Hannibal is the icon of all cannibals.
That was a big centerpiece, and that also, too, is a lot of what an audience wants to see.
And let's face it, you know, we've all occasionally wanted rude people to meet a grisly end, so it answers the kind of slightly, you know, wish fulfillment side of us.
So it was very important that we have the right recipes and have the right look, and it was in the writer's room where Brian just kind of stood up and said, with food, I want it to be food porn.
And for me, the very important thing for this show was to have someone consulting on it who had a greater culinary vocabulary than I do.
Yes, we have hired Jose Andres to prepare the food that Dr. Lecter will be dining on, yes.
I had been a fan of Jose Andres's for the better part of a decade, and always had been looking for an opportunity to how can I work with Jose Andres. And so when Hannibal came across my lap, I thought, this is a perfect opportunity to get to work with somebody who I had been, you know, a fan of for quite some time.
So people are gonna be asking how a chef gets involved in a show like Hannibal. And I don't think I have an answer. But you know, I opened 4 years ago in Beverly Hills, in Los Angeles. And I opened a restaurant where all of the sudden, anybody who is anybody in the movies, in TV, in Hollywood, began coming to the restaurant.
And I met Jose and I said, you know, I am working on this project that's based on the Hannibal Lecter character. Before I could even ask him if he would be interested in consulting, he volunteered. He was like, I have to be your consultant on this show. He did the teeth-sucking thing, and he said it was one of his favorite characters. He loved that he was a gourmand and had such a specific appeal for the culinary world as well.
My role is simple, culinary advisor. It's a lot of food for a TV show that you could argue is about cannibalism, but it's so much more than that. It's looking into the brain of a person and how food somehow is going to help us trying to understand who Hannibal is.
Not only did the Ripper take his kidney, but he also took his heart, which, if you recall, is what he tried to do in the hotel, but was interrupted before he could paint his picture.
And, you know, I asked Jose, so what can you eat on the human body? And he's like, everything. There is not anything that you can't eat. You can grind the bones into a thickening agent to put into gravy or sauces. You can take eyeballs and emulsify them. You can take lungs of a smoker and they'll be pre-smoked, and you open them up and you remove the first layer of tar, and then you squeeze the air out of them and you cut them up and you make these fillets of lung.
And I know some of my friends told me, this is sick, Jose. But I want to tell everybody, well, it's not sick. We all cut a finger. And the first reaction we have is bringing that finger to our mouth and having an experience with blood. You just think about it. And you learn that blood is warm and blood is sweet. And all of a sudden we have a connection with our own body in ways we don't think.
And he was so enthusiastic and had no kind of preciousness that he was eating people. It was all about how would you prepare meat. And so meat is meat is meat is meat. And he didn't necessarily think that, oh, we have to be delicate. He thought about all of the things that you do to an animal to consume it that you can do to a human being, because we are an animal.
That's kind of my role, trying to help the director and the writers to add another layer through food of who Hannibal is. That's my role. And then trying to bring to life dishes, products, foods, wines that somehow they're gonna be showing in the show in a very subtle way, but nonetheless in an important way.
I feel terrible, Miss Lowndes. Never entered my head you might be a vegetarian. A lapse on my behalf.
So working the food, the menu, the preparation, or the organ of the week into the show starts in the writer's room. What you want to do, and what is so, I think, great about the way Brian and his team structure the episodes, everything is themed, and everything kind of is a metaphor for something else that's going on.
It all starts with a scene. So I'll be in the middle of a scene and I'll email Jose and I'll say, I am writing a scene where Jack Crawford is sitting down with Hannibal Lecter and they have this event hanging over their heads. So we need some sort of dish that can provide a metaphor, for instance, for that dish that can apply to the greater story. So Jose's a storyteller. I think all great chefs are storytellers because the food has to have a beginning and a middle and an end and a crescendo, and that's how he works. And so he's the perfect partner on this show for me because he is also a storyteller.
My restaurants, I have very creative restaurants, a mini bar, Sam, restaurants that we do 20, 30 courses, where every ingredient, even the music, every smell, the aroma, the looks, everything plays into that sophistication.
It's always got to be tied in. So as they break down what is happening in that series, you know, there's obviously a menu in mind. And that's when Brian will start to talk to Jose with some ideas. And Jose will think and have, I mean, he could cook anything, Jose, in the world, you know, from every single part of an animal, from every single part of the fruit or the vegetable, whatever it is, and make it into something so outrageous, but that's what we're doing too. You know, it's outrageous, audacious.
So imagine how unique it is that I receive an email from Brian with the script. First of all, it's very cool to be able to be reading a script that is alive, is changing as we read it, is never ending a story. And you read the script. I don't only read the page where it's a food scene. I try to read the entire script because I'm trying to understand what's happening, what's going on.
There was an episode where Dr. Chilton, who is a character made famous by Anthony Heald in Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon, and we got to hire Raul Esparza to play Dr. Chilton in the television series. And so Hannibal Lecter was taking Dr. Chilton to his home and cooking him dinner. So Jose was like, he has to be cooking a tongue.
I don't think I've ever had tongue before.
It was a particularly chatty lamb.
It smells delicious.
The Romans used to kill flamingos just to eat their tongues.
Don't give me ideas. Your tongue is very feisty. And as this evening has already proven, it's nice to have an old friend for dinner.
So we had goat's tongue, and he gives us the idea of the dish, the aesthetic of the dish, and a recipe for it. And then Janice Poon, who is our food stylist, brings it to life.
I want the food to look delicious. I want it to look menacing but delicious. That's really the key to me, that it be that would be so alluring that you would, like Hannibal himself, so intriguing that you want to try it even though you know you shouldn't. In the case of lamb tongues, you don't want to try them. They look like overblown larvae. They're really not good-looking things.
Well, one of the wonderful things about working with Janice Poon is that she has an amazing aesthetic, and she also has a very cinematic eye. So she'll think about, oh, we need to have this kind of element in a dish because it'll give you a color pop or a texture. Let's put a little squid in there because it'll give you a graphic design to the dish with the curls of the tentacles. So she's always thinking about what it looks like in a fantastic way.
I made these tongues, false tongues, out of bulgur, which is essentially a wheat mixture, and steamed them all so that I could shape them and curl them so they looked like they were talking to each other and that sort of thing. So what they were eating was actually like a version of Lebanese kibbeh, and what they were saying they were eating was lamb, and what they were supposed to be eating was some unfortunate girl's tongue.
And what's wonderful about the email chains that go back and forth between myself and Janice and Jose are all of these ideas that build on top of each other. We need to put a little salmon roe in there to give it some, you know, a roundness and a graphic pocket that goes next to the main dish. So there are those elements that make it very exciting.
As a creative chef, I've been helping with beautiful Janice, who she's been on the set, main person to make sure that the food looks good. Many of the great ideas are hers.
And what Janice will do is she'll provide an illustration of what the dish is. And then you see the illustration come to life, and the illustration doesn't do the dish the justice that you see when it's finally on camera, because it's gorgeous. Every dish that she's made has been a work of art.
It's a deception within a lie, within a falsehood, because what you see on camera, it's neither the recipe that I might receive from Jose, nor is it what Hannibal's telling you. It has to look like what Hannibal is telling you. It isn't. It has to hint at what he's saying it is, but it also has to be something the actors can eat take after take after take, whether they're vegetarians and it's bloody meat stew, or if they are allergic to gluten or any number of things, or simply that there are so many takes that you don't want to give them something that's too spicy or something that is too rich, because they have to eat it take after take after take, and you don't want it to be something that's distracting them or anything that's onerous.
Her comments from the very pure culinary point of view, she speaks to the director has some ideas, then I read the script, I speak with Brian, well on the phone, well through email, Janice, I get all this information, and then I'm like, okay guys, I think we need to be doing this, this and that, we have too little of this.
It's an extra special element, you know, and a wonderfully, you know, sort of twisted way of kind of jazzing this thing up and making it special.
Elements that you would think, like, is this over the top? But it doesn't matter, because it's Hannibal and he is over the top in his aesthetic. So it's wonderful to be working with like-minded people who get that and are able to bring it to the screen.